Welcome back to the Capitol Review. I'm Mark Hall. President Donald Trump pushing the U.S. government to decide how it's going to handle cryptocurrency. Thursday, the executive order to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Some are saying that the move falls short of his promises. And joining us now to talk about what this means is DC News Now's consumer reporter Hayley Milon. Hayley, first of all, let's talk about Bitcoin reserve. We have commodity reserves for things like gold. Is this like that?
Kind of. It kind of is. And so Bitcoin, it's a person-to-person currency, right? There's a finite amount of it in the world, and no one regulates it. But the U.S. government does have its own crypto, and Bitcoin specifically, that it's acquired via criminal seizures and forfeitures. Think like, you know, people who need to give it up because of their taxes. So that is how the government has acquired the crypto that it currently has. But this executive order includes no active buying and selling of Bitcoin. It's really just kind of putting a name on the holdings that the government has now and categorizing it as a U.S. reserve. So it does direct the Treasury to pursue budget-neutral acquisition. Very unclear what that means. It could be means of, you know, criminal forfeiture, which is how most of the Bitcoin has come into the U.S. government's possession.
Well, what is the president's posture on crypto, and how does this really align?
Yeah, so he's been really bullish on crypto of all kinds, particularly Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really the most established form of cryptocurrency and the most widely traded in the world. Again, there is a finite amount in the world, and the markets are moving towards, or have moved towards, posture of comfort and have a bit of predictability, more so than they did a couple of years ago with Bitcoin, more than any other coin. Trump was really big on emphasizing and changing ways that crypto can be used here in the U.S. and abroad. People really got on board with that. His supporters really got on board with that. He appointed billionaire David Sacks to be his crypto czar. Again, very unclear what exactly the crypto czar would do in the White House. But what Trump really promised people ahead of the election and on the campaign trail was more regulation and maybe stability in the crypto space, in the Bitcoin space, and that got people a lot of that drummed up a lot of excitement and confidence in Bitcoin and perhaps the future of using it to pay your taxes, you know, in a number of different ways, and to make the commodity more useful. Now, the U.S. government has sold off Bitcoin that it's acquired before. Sacks is estimating, we don't know how he got this calculation, but Sacks is calculating that the U.S. government's handling of the Bitcoin, selling it off after it acquires it, has cost taxpayers $17 billion. So if true, that's a substantial amount of money in the form of Bitcoin. And Trump himself, active in crypto. You know, he launched his meme coin. First Lady Melania Trump had her meme coin launched around the inauguration, and Trump also is involved in a couple crypto ventures. And
quickly, Hayley, how has Bitcoin done since the president won the election?
Yeah, a lot of excitement, and it drove up the price of Bitcoin. At one point, it reached over $109,000 per Bitcoin. A lot of people putting money in. Of course, you can, you know, buy a portion of a Bitcoin, so a lot of people getting excited. But since then, in Trump's first 50 or so days since the presidency, the value has dropped. It's hovered between like $88,000 and $90,000. This is kind of disappointing. It's kind of deflated a lot of the excitement over cryptocurrency, a lot of the excitement over the momentum for Bitcoin, because the whole point of cryptocurrency is for it to be in circulation and to meet that supply and demand, and that's what determines the value. So for the government to just have a stockpile of it that isn't really doing much, it raises a lot of questions and concerns about how that would contribute to the value of this.
Hayley Milon, thank you so very much for joining us.
Of course.